Okay, welcome to another episode of Retirement for Life podcast. I got to say, when I first started this podcast, all I want to do is talk about Roth conversions. But we had to spend months going through some must-do, necessary type of topics. But we're finally to the place where I want to be, which is Roth conversions. If it was up to me, this would have been our first episode, but we're doing it now. It's a great topic. We're going to keep it short, and it's going to be in 3 dissectable parts. So today is part 1. Let's get started.
Retirement for Life, your passport to a comfortable and confident retirement. The podcast that's equal parts education and entertainment, where we break down the retirement maze with a dash of fun and a heap of wisdom from your host, Christian Sear CPA, the passionate retirement specialist and president of Sear Financial Wealth Advisors, the independent registered investment advisor specializing in the AIM retirement system.
All right, so this show today is packed with a ton of great information. First, we're going to talk about 5 key points I know you drew up, Chris, about Roth conversions, and then we'll kind of talk about that ticking tax time bomb.
Yes.
And maybe some basic concepts of Roth conversion, who it's for, who it's not for, and then, wrap up with some other considerations we have. Yeah,
and remember, it's always good to watch this and not listen to this. If you're listening, great, but you should go to rflshow.com so you can see our beautiful faces. So here's the deal. This topic might not be for everybody, okay? So I don't want to waste people's time with this, okay? I'm a CPA. I've done thousands of tax returns. I looked back. I have 25,000 hours of complex financial planning on my belt. And what I know about this topic is that it is not for everybody. So I put together these 5 key points to help people understand about if this topic, Roth conversions, is for you. Let's start with point number 1. I've said this now for nearly a decade. In my humble opinion, Roth conversions are, Andrew, you've heard me say this before, the biggest single financial opportunity for a generation of savers. We are talking like 6 figures, 7 figures of incremental, increased generational wealth that you are just creating by going through a Roth conversion. It's not for everybody. Ed Slott, this is a guy who's nationally recognized. We have done training from Ed, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
He is the premier expert on IRA distributions and the topic of Roth conversions. And he said, Andrew, you sent me this article the other day.
Yep.
And actually, when you sent me the article, I thought, gosh darn it, it's time for us to do Roth conversions on the podcast. But
that quote he had.
What did he say?
He said it would be almost malpractice for any financial or tax advisor to ignore this.
He's basically saying you should go to jail as an advisor if you do not discuss Roth conversions. Okay, that's number 1. That's why you do Roth conversions. We're talking about big dollars, and this is crazy. Number 2, it's the who. Who is Roth conversions for? This is for people who have saved their money. This is not for people who are wondering if they have enough money to retire. This is not for people who are going to spend their money in retirement and it's going to be maybe all gone when they're done. There's a lot of videos out there on Roth conversions. In my opinion, most of them are terrible, okay? For me, it's just a lot of fluffy words that they're saying. We're going to give actual numbers, and I'm going to give those to you right now, okay? Austin, what did you do for me yesterday?
Oh, yesterday I went through probably hundreds of plans to see how impactful these Roth conversions were.
Yeah, it was a lot of work, and I appreciate the work. So these videos that people are putting out there to try and educate about Roth conversions, it's a lot of fluffy words. It's like, oh, you should do this, and oh, this is how it works. But there's no real concrete information. People, when they're listening or watching, want to know, like, what does this really mean for me? And this is what it means. So for a person or a couple who have come to us with $750,000 of investable assets, on average, by doing a Roth conversion, they have created $450,000 of additional wealth for them and their family.
Mm-hmm.
That's nearly $500,000 just by doing one thing, a Roth conversion. And it gets better. Okay, so I did $1 million for people who have come to us with $1 million of investable assets. On average, they have created $550,000 of incremental wealth for them and their family. And the clients who have brought us $5 million, they have increased or produced an additional $2 million of multi-generational wealth from Roth conversions, which is why I say this is the biggest single opportunity for a generation of savers, okay? We do a lot of stuff in plans. We had a client here yesterday. We looked at his financial plan. What was his chances of retirement success when we first looked at it? Zero. And we moved the needle on Social Security, right? Social Security went from 0 to 50% just by optimizing Social Security. That's a big needle mover. There's other things that we do that really help move the needle, but there's nothing, in my opinion, that moves the needle more than a Roth conversion. Number 3, what are Roth conversions? At the very core, at the very essence, the Roth conversion is basically paying your tax now so that you don't have to pay more taxes later down the line and your kids don't have to pay taxes down the line. In essence, that is what a Roth conversion is. You are paying the piper now, not later. And to be clear, people often come into the office. We'll start talking about Roth conversions and what's like, do they get confused?
Yeah, they're thinking like Roth contribution.
Yeah, like I could put $7,000 into a Roth IRA. Is that what you're talking about? No, that's not what we're talking about. There's also this thing called backdoor Roth contributions. And that is kind of a way to manipulate the IRS code where you can kind of sneak $5, $10, $15, $20,000 into a Roth IRA if you maybe otherwise wouldn't be able to. We're not talking about that. A Roth conversion is you converting all or most of your life savings, nest egg, from the 401ks and the IRAs into a Roth. $700,000, $1 million, $2 million. These are big money movements that we're talking about. That is what a Roth conversion is. There's a lot of analogies out there, but they're all terrible. I think I'll give you the analogy right now, okay? So for those of you who are out there who are like, what is a Roth conversion? Very simply, I like to coin myself the king of analogies. Brooke, do you think that's a good title for me?
Yeah.
I really think it is. I think it's one of the reasons why I've been successful is I'm able to help people understand things. This analogy, I don't care if it's your daughter's boyfriend or my 78-year-old aunt, you can understand this concept, okay? Imagine you're on vacation. You and your spouse are in the front seat. Can you imagine this, Andrea?
Yep.
Have you ever driven across the country?
Lots of times.
Okay, you're going across the country, and in the back seat, you've got your 2 kids, okay? You have to cross the Mississippi River to actually get to the destination, right? Crossing the river is not a maybe, it's a must do. You get to the bridge, and the guy stops you, the bridge tender, and he says, there is a toll to cross this bridge, okay? So you know that you cannot escape paying this toll. You can't go around it. You have to cross the bridge. And you say, Mr. Bridge Tender, what are my options for paying the toll? Well, why'd you stop me? He goes, well, there's 2 options. Option number 1 is you just give me $1 right now, okay? And then you go across and you get on with your vacation. Well, what's option number 2? Well, option number 2 is to wait until you get to the end of the bridge, and then you pay me $2. You and your spouse pay me $2, and you say, oh, okay. He goes, but there's more. That second option, not only do you and your spouse have to pay $2, your kids in the back seat, they have to pay an additional $2, okay? That is what Roth conversions are. Paying $1 right now as opposed to paying $4 between you and your kids later down the line, okay?
Yep.
Unfortunately, traditionally in financial planning, what do they tell us?
To not pay the taxes now.
Kick the can down the road. You don't want to pay those taxes, do you? And of course, the average American is like, no, I don't want to pay taxes.
Right.
It's kick the can down the road. But it turns out that if you pay the $1 now and not kick the can down the road, you're going to save and generate this huge amount of money by doing a Roth conversion. That is what a Roth conversion is. Point number 4. How do they work? Austin, can you read my definition of how a Roth conversion works?
Yeah, you have written down that it is a systematic, complex planning strategy with a lot of moving parts, and it's orchestrated over a series of years, which is best implemented in concert with other major pieces of your financial plan.
You said a mouthful. Basically what that means is that this is not a simple thing. This is not like, hey, do you want to go to a stock portfolio or a bond portfolio? This is long, drawn-out process, and it impacts so many different parts of your financial plan, okay? Your Social Security, your mailbox money, your Medicare, your taxes, it all comes together with a Roth conversion. It's complex, but at the very essence of it, this is a tax planning thing, okay? Which is why the CPA is primarily, he's the main driver of this. But most CPAs don't want to get involved in this because they're scared of it. They're not used to the financial planning aspects of it. We had a client, Andrea, tell that story about the client. We said he was going to save 6 or 7 figures. I can't remember.
Yeah. And
Tim.
Yeah. And his CPA, we said, basically, hey, Tim, you need to talk to your CPA.
We got this great idea. Go talk to your CPA.
Yeah. And his CPA was not fond of the idea.
CPA's like, I don't know, right? CPAs, and I can speak for CPAs because I am a CPA. It is not a usual topic. It's foreign to most CPAs, right? There's tax forms, yes, but there's this financial planning piece that most of the CPAs aren't comfortable with. On the flip side, you have these financial advisors, right? We're talking about financial advisors who have never filed a tax return in their life. They don't understand the nuances of taxes, and their favorite term is, I don't know, you have to go talk to your tax advisor, okay? Which is why the Roth conversion is best done, without a doubt, with a level 5 advisor. We spoke about that in episode 3, finding a level 5 advisor. One of the things we said about a level 5 advisor is that that person or that firm has not only financial planners, but they also have a cast of characters, including CPAs. That's who you want to do a Roth conversion with. And finally, point number 5, when would you do a Roth conversion? So everyone's situation is different, but generally you are doing this Roth conversion when you retire. That's usually the sweet spot. So you're not doing it when you're making 6 figures and your tax bracket's high. You're usually waiting until you retire. And then a Roth conversion can last, how long would you say?
I say the average is 5 years, but it can take even longer at times.
Some people do it in 3 years. Some people, it's like a 20-year thing. But the sweet spot is to do this Roth conversion in that 5-year period you said, which is between, let's say, retirement at age 65 and before you take Social Security, right? There's that 5-year window between 65 and 70. That's usually a sweet spot. So let's move on.
So we touched briefly about Ed Slott earlier. Chris, what does he mean by that ticking tax time bomb?
How long have I been stealing Ed Slott's ticking tax time bomb? What is that alliteration?
I would say probably 5 years.
I heard him say this 5 years ago because we did a class with Ed Slott. And I use it all the time. It's the ticking tax time bomb. Here's what it is. People don't realize or don't think about this stuff. You have accumulated most of your wealth in an account. Maybe it's a 401k. Maybe it's an IRA. And have you ever paid taxes on it yet?
Nope.
Haven't paid a dime of taxes. You've got $1 million. I use the analogy. The guy coming in my office years ago, I got $1 million in my account. No, you don't, sir. You have $750,000. They almost walked out of the door when I explained to him that at least $250,000 of that is going to go to Uncle Sam, probably more, right?
Yeah.
So this huge bucket of money that all of these Americans have is a ticking tax time bomb. So how does it work? So first of all, when you start like 73 to 75, they make you take what?
Required minimum.
Yeah.
Those RMDs. What is an RMD? How would you explain an RMD to a person?
You got to take out the minimum amount out of your IRA every year. And we have to, that's your paying piper.
And it's based off your age and your balance of your account based on how much you have to pull out.
So here's a great example, right? According to a recent study, the average American feels like they need nearly $1.5 million to retire comfortably. That's a 53% increase compared to the same study just 4 years ago. But is that the right number for you? And are you doing everything you can to maximize your financial situation? The AIM Retirement Assessment can help you figure that out. This free assessment is a simple 3-step process. Answer a few questions about yourself. Spend 15 minutes discussing your situation with one of our retirement specialists, and then we get to work. You'll receive a customized report detailing your exposure to the 7 biggest risks in retirement and the 3 most impactful action items you can take to supercharge your retirement. And if you already have a financial plan, this assessment will help you see what real retirement planning looks like. Get your AIM assessment today and see the difference between a financial generalist and a retirement specialist. Go to aimassessment.com today to get started. That's aimassessment.com. You've got a guy who is now 75 years old. He's got a pension. He's taking Social Security. He's really doing pretty good. Maybe he calls you up for money here and there. Maybe he's got like a roof repair, or he wants to buy a car or something. But for the most part, that IRA of his, that 401k of his that he saved up all his life, it's pretty much just growing, right? Mm-hmm. Sure, he takes some money out. But then he turns 75, and we call him up and we say, you have to take out $108,000 out of that IRA, and we're going to send about $30,000 of that straight to Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. That is a required minimum distribution. People don't realize that when you show that to people, when we're doing a financial plan for people and we show them, you're going to take out $108,000, and then the next year you're going to take out $120,000, and then the next year you're going to take out $100 and whatever, and they don't need it.
Right.
So the government with required minimum distributions is forcing you to pay taxes, right? That's part one of the ticking tax time bomb. It's not uncommon for a retiree when they first, they've been working, they've been making money, they're in this top tax bracket, they're an executive, whatever, they're doing well. All of a sudden they retire. What happens to their tax bracket?
Well, it goes down typically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Typically, traditionally, on your first day of retirement, maybe you don't start taking Social Security yet. Maybe you got some money saved up in the bank. Mm-hmm. It's very often the first year of retirement. In fact, the example I'm using for this part two, our client is going to be in the zero. He's going to pay zero taxes in his first year of retirement. Okay. But by the time he gets to be 75, 80, now he's starting to get into top tax bracket again because of these required minimum distributions. Mm-hmm. And then the ticking tax time bomb gets worse. Now you're getting Social Security. Now because you're in the top tax bracket or a higher tax bracket, now the government's taking more of your Social Security. They're taxing more of your Social Security, right?
Yep.
And then Medicare Part B premiums. The more money you make, and again, you're now in the top tax bracket. Why are you in the top tax bracket? Because you're taking required minimum distributions. Medicare Part B premium, the thing that comes out of your Social Security check every month, those premiums go up. They can go up to as high as $500+ per month, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then it gets worse. Then you die. Then what happens?
And the money goes to your kids. Yeah.
Now your kids are paying the taxes, okay? Mm-hmm. It's the ticking tax time bomb. It keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And then there's the worst thing. This is the worst part of it. We looked it up earlier. Brooke, what's the federal deficit right now?
34 trillion.
How many zeros is that, Austin?
12.
Right now, our federal government has a federal deficit of $34 trillion. Is it getting bigger or less?
Bigger for sure.
It's getting bigger by the day, okay? Mm-hmm. When I ask 100 Americans, do you think tax rates are going to go up or down in the future? What do they say?
It's going to go up.
So back to that analogy I had, right? There was $1 at the beginning of the bridge, and there was $4 at the end of the bridge. You know what could probably happen? You get to the end of the bridge, it's not $4 anymore. Now it's $5, mm-hmm. because it's very likely or foreseeable that the American government is going to increase taxes. So the ticking tax time bomb is a culmination of all those things, and that's what we're facing. And that's why you want to talk about Roth conversions.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's start with the basics of what a Roth conversion actually is.
Okay, so Andrea goes like this. Customer comes to us. They have $1 million in their 401k. Mm-hmm. They've now engaged us as a financial advisor. We've gone through the AIM retirement system. Mm-hmm. We've optimized all the things. And what do we leave for last? The Roth conversions, right?
Yep.
So if a person is going to do a Roth conversion, what are they going to do with their $1 million 401k?
They're going to start converting it incrementally over a period of time, and it'll move from the traditional IRA to a Roth IRA.
Mm-hmm. And for example, if they've moved $100,000 of that money from their 401k into their Roth IRA, they're going to owe taxes on it, right?
Yep.
Okay. But once they have done that, let's say they convert their $1 million 401k into a Roth. Let's say we do it over a 5-year period. Okay. Now they are 70 years old. Now, how much is their required minimum distribution going to be?
0.
Nothing.
Are they going to be taxed a lot on their Social Security anymore?
Nope.
Are they going to be paying $500 a month for their Medicare Part B premiums anymore?
Nope.
When they die and they give that money that they didn't spend to their kids, are their kids going to spend any money on that?
No, it's tax-free.
Tax-free, yep.
They're not going to pay any taxes on it. Do they care if 2 presidents from now decide that we need to increase tax rates because the federal deficit now is at $100 trillion?
No.
They paid their $1 at the beginning of the bridge. They don't care what taxes due because they already paid their taxes. That's the basics of a Roth conversion.
So who specifically should consider a Roth conversion? Who shouldn't?
I feel like Andrew should answer this question.
I mean, it's obviously every situation's different, but I would say the sweet spot's around $700,000 saved in a traditional IRA or 401k.
I agree. I mean, if a person comes to us, we've had this before where a person says, I saw your TED Talk on Roth conversions. I saw that you were telling people that's the biggest single financial opportunity for a generation of savers. And yeah, it's true. If you have investable assets of less than $700,000, we probably won't look at a Roth conversion. We always look at it, but it's probably not going to pay off big dividends for you.
No.
And the reason is because if you have $500,000 in the bank right now and you are 65, chances are you're going to be okay if you do things the right way, but you're not going to die with $2 million in the bank, right? The more you have left over, the bigger the opportunity is for the Roth conversion. But I would say more than 50% of our clients will die at 95 or 90 with more money than they have when they retire at 65. And that's just the way it works.
Yep.
One bonus thing, we mentioned how the taxes get paid. We mentioned there's taxes, but we didn't mention how they get paid. This really works good for a person who has a separate bucket of money that is not in their 401k, right?
Yeah.
If you have $200,000 sitting in the bank to pay these taxes, because remember, you have to pay the dollar of taxes up front. If you can pay that dollar of taxes at the beginning of the bridge with a separate bucket of money that's not in your 401k, it's even better. So that, Austin, is who Roth conversions are for.
And lastly, we just wanted to mention a few considerations about Roth conversions.
Yeah, so part 1 of Roth conversions, we're just kind of going over the basics today. Part 2, we're going to talk about some stuff. Part 3, we're going to talk about some stuff. But right now, I think it is important to mention a few things. Roth conversions cannot be undone, okay? Now, I don't think it's a bad thing, right? Because what are we doing? We're paying our taxes today, so we will never have to pay taxes in the future. And for me, to me, that's not a scary thing. It's not like you're making a decision that could potentially be bad, right? You've paid the taxes, but you cannot undo this. This is a thing that we decide to do. Now, do we evaluate it? Yeah, every year. Right?
Yeah.
And we've changed courses on Roth conversion before, right? We're going to go about this way. Now we're going to go about it this way or that way. And we've even had some clients who we've gotten halfway through it, and we've said at this point it doesn't make sense to finish the Roth conversion.
Right.
Because you can do a partial Roth conversion, right?
Yep.
And generally, I think it's also important to point out that you're not going to do a Roth conversion, right? You're doing all this heavy lifting. You're moving the money, as you explained, Andrea, to a Roth IRA. If you're going to need that money in the next 5 or 10 years, you don't want to do this, right? This is money that you're probably not going to spend, okay? Or not a lot of it.
Right.
So those are the important considerations, I think, for part 1 of Roth conversions.
I think we should elaborate for everyone about the 5-year window of not being able to touch the funds in your Roth IRA.
Okay. I don't like talking about this because it doesn't apply to our clients, but there is a 5-year rule for Roth conversions, which may apply in certain circumstances. Generally, when you're putting money into the Roth, you're converting it into the Roth. There are situations where you can't take it out until 5 years after, right? So it has to sit there for 5 years. So we'll talk more about that in part 3, but for a conversion, if you are over 59.5 and you've converted this money, you don't have to wait 5 years. It's basically a moot point for our clients. But it's important to bring up, you're right. So yeah, there's a 5-year rule that doesn't apply for our clients. That's all I'll say about that. So can I tell you what we're going to talk about in part 2?
Mm-hmm.
I am so super excited. We just had a client sign on board. He and his wife have saved up $2.1 million of investable assets. You know who I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
His Roth conversion is going to generate an additional $974,000 of multi-generational wealth. And I looked at his financial plan, and I thought this would be the perfect actual real-life example of what a Roth conversion could look like. So in part 2, we are going to dissect his plan and go through it. And I mean, I'll just give you a little what's it called when you give a little
tidbit,
little tidbit?
Teaser. I like that.
So at age 80, I'll show you this guy, because he's doing a Roth conversion, his Social Security is getting taxed like $30,000 less because he is doing a Roth conversion. His his itemized deductions on his tax return are higher because of the Roth conversion. His RMD at age 80, if he does not do a Roth conversion, is $108,000. But guess what it is because he's doing a Roth? It's zero.
Mm-hmm.
So he is saving at age 80 by doing a Roth conversion. He is paying a total of $30,000 less taxes. Roth conversion, $10,000 of taxes, federal taxes at the age of 80. He doesn't do a Roth conversion. His total taxes are going to be like $43,000. And then we'll show how much money he saves in taxes over his lifetime. I can tell you it's well into the 6 figures and more than $500,000 of tax savings. And then finally, I'll show you how much his kids are saving because he is choosing to do a Roth conversion. It's even more. That is going to be part 2, and I'm excited to share that with people.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, Andrea, I think we should give overview of part 3 because you're big about like telling people how this actually works. So what are some of the things we're going to talk about in part 3 of Roth conversions?
So part 3 is going to be what to do before you start a Roth conversion.
Yep.
The logistics, like how it actually works. How do you handle it? What are the steps?
Mm-hmm.
And then the paying the taxes, which no one ever really likes to talk about.
Yeah, let me just interrupt you because yesterday I'm like, what do you think about this outline for part 1 of Roth conversions? And you came to me and you said, we got to talk about taxes. So yes, we got to talk about how they actually get paid. People want to know that.
Yep, it's a big question. And then the timing of that. And then we're always monitoring it and adjusting it. So it's kind of like the process of that. And then maybe the pitfalls of
common pitfalls of Roth conversions. We'll talk about all that in part 3. But for today, let's just end this podcast by talking about what's going on. We're getting a lot of activity lately. We just talked about, for some reason, we're getting popular in California. Mm-hmm. I don't know why that is. Mm-hmm. But doing this podcast has been a lot of fun. We're seeing a lot of people who are enjoying our company, even though it's on a screen. So, and Brooke, how many YouTube subscribers are we up to?
I checked this morning and we were at 511.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
And what did we have in January when we started? Does anyone remember?
I think I looked and it was like maybe like 87.
Oh my.
So, and those were like all of our friends and families. And I even, I might have made a couple accounts on myself.
So we've jumped from 80 some to 500 some. That's good progress.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think we can get 1,000 by the end of the year?
I do. Yeah, that's my goal. So.
Okay. All right. We'll see you guys next time. We're going to talk about an actual example of a person who generated $974,000 from doing a Roth conversion. We'll talk to you next time.
Investment advisory services provided by Sear Financial Inc., SEC registered investment advisor. All content on this podcast is for information purposes only and should not be considered investment, legal, or tax advice. Material presented is believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations are made by our firm as to another party's informational accuracy or completeness.